Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the host of Independent Thought. My name is Desmond Price. No matter where you are in the world, I want to thank you for giving me a few minutes of your day to hear my thoughts. As always, we have a great show for you today. Now, here are our topics. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Independent Thought. Today, I have a special guest, Mr. Daniel Carlino. Daniel, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. It's a beautiful day in Missoula. Thanks for having me on, Desmond.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Daniel comes to us from Missoula, Montana, where he is currently running for the office of the Public Service Commission. Daniel, thanks for coming on today. Will you tell us a little bit about what exactly the Public Service Commission is and why you're running?
Right. The Public Service Commission's job is to regulate the utility monopolies. So that includes for Montana, that includes our energy, our water, our telecommunications, our railroad, and our waste management. And the reason that I got into this is because I've been working for the past few years to stop climate change. And the main thing that's holding us back is our corrupt political system from our politicians being bought out from industries, especially from the fossil fuel industry lobbyists, PACs, or CEOs, and working to try and stop the fossil fuel industry's influence on our politics led me to this place. And Northwestern Energy is regulated by the Public Service Commission, and they're the biggest concern for our greenhouse gas emissions in Montana. Because for the next 20 years, they're planning on, they released their energy plan, and they're planning on fracking for a lot of new natural gas in Montana, and they're planning on doubling down on their investments in Colstrip. And for the next 20 years, they also have no planned investments in large renewable energy projects. So it's really going to be a climate disaster if we allow energy companies like this to continue on. So the reason I'm running is to make sure that we're transitioning away from these fossil fuels and more towards a sustainable energy future. And that starts with holding these energy monopolies accountable, Northwestern Energy and Montana Dakota Utilities as well.
Okay. Now, that is a pretty good apt description. For those who are listening at home, can you just give us a little bit of more information? Who exactly is Northwestern Energy and about how much of the energy share do they have here in Montana?
Yes, Northwestern Energy is an energy monopoly that took over after the deregulation of Montana Power back at the end of the 90s. And the reason that we have a monopoly for energy grid is because the government grants a monopoly because they share all the transmission lines and all the infrastructure required to get energy to every place and the other. So a monopoly actually works best for energy, and that's why the government granted it. But the Public Service Commission has not been doing a good job regulating this monopoly. And Northwestern Energy supplies energy to about 400,000 Montanans. And for most people that live in places like Missoula and others, they're the only choice for energy. So, and at the same time, they've been making $200 million in profits off of Montanans each year. And they are refusing to invest in a renewable energy future. And their main concern is just making sure that we have enough energy for the grid to supply everybody during the winter. And also their main concern is just to make sure that they're making as much money as they possibly can off of people's energy bills.
Okay. So once again, for the people at home, just to kind of give you a quick little overview here, Northwestern Energy seems to be the only dominant electrical and natural gas company here in the state of Montana.
Right.
They seem to run unopposed by any other major company here in Montana. I've never seen another energy company whatsoever anywhere that I've ever lived in the state. Now, if you were to win your election and be, on the Public Service Commission, what kind of authority does that give you? What exactly can you do to influence change once you have that position?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the Public Service Commission acts as a barrier between the monopolies and the ratepayers, the average citizens. So whenever a monopoly wants to make a decision, that's going to affect Montana ratepayers, whether that be a energy rate increase, or rate decrease, or whether that be building new natural gas plants like they're planning and fracking for new natural gas in Montana. All of that has to get approved by the Public Service Commission. If they want to build new wind turbines, if they want to build a hydro pump storage project, etc., it all has to get approved by the Public Service Commission. So they act as the body that makes sure that these monopolies are holding our best interests in their decisions.
Okay. So obviously, you are running against other people who are also running for this office. Would you tell us briefly how many people are you running against and what makes you different from them?
Absolutely. So there was two other Democrats in this race, and then there's two Republicans. Well, first of all, this should be a nonpartisan position, but it is partisan currently. And one of the other Democrats actually just dropped out yesterday. It was the last day to drop out, and so it's just
Okay.
me versus a lawyer, Monica, and from the Democratic ticket. And the main thing that differentiates us, I guess I will say that the Republicans also on this ticket, and Monica as well, and myself, are all in favor of renewable energy, and we're all in favor of reining in the monopolies as well. But the main thing that makes me different is we just had a whole candidate forum at the Roxy a couple weeks ago, and I'm the only candidate who is opposed to all new fossil fuel projects. That includes the natural gas projects, and Democrats and Republicans in the past have voted for these time and time again, and I'm the only candidate against the fracking. I'm also This is slightly outside of the Public Service Commission's jurisdiction, but they do regulate the waste management monopolies, Republic Services, and they also regulate our railroad with Montana Rail Link. So this whole time, I've been pushing for bringing passenger railroad back to southern Montana,
Okay.
going to talk to the legislature and working with our county commissioners to push for passenger railroad. And I'm also pushing to get more accessible and more affordable recycling and compost programs for Montanans as well with Republic Services. So the stance on fracking and the stance on passenger railroad and recycling and composting are the main differentiators. And the other big one that we spoke about at the candidate forum is that I'm also in favor of putting all of our utilities into public ownership. And this is
Okay.
also outside of the Public Service Commission's jurisdiction. This would have to go through the legislature and get passed by the governor as well. But I think basic needs like energy and water and waste management type of needs, especially our energy grid, should be put into public ownership, because the people will then save money by not having this $200 million go to for-profit companies like Northwestern Energy. And also, the people want renewable energy. The vast majority of Montanans, if you looked at times that they've give out surveys about this, people want renewable energy. They also want reliable energy. And if it was in public ownership, we would have a renewable energy transition much faster than these for-profit companies controlling that. So those are the main differentiators between me and the other candidates.
Okay, great. The one thing that I always hear whenever this conversation comes up, when it's the renewable energy conversation, the
Uh-huh.
people who are usually opposed to this conversation love to talk about jobs. They love to talk about the
Right.
jobs that are created by the natural gas market, by the oil market. So obviously, with being opposed to any drilling whatsoever, any fracking whatsoever, are you confident
Mhm.
that the green jobs that would be created would offset the jobs lost by the fossil fuel industry?
I am confident in that, but I would also like to expand on I endorse a Green New Deal, and what that means is that a just transition for fossil fuel workers. So I've reached out to the mayor of Colstrip. We had him on my podcast as well, and we talked about the job transition. And those people are trying to put food on their tables for their families. Working coal is a high paying job right now. And I will be advocating to the legislature for a just job transition. And what that means, in my opinion, is at least 5 years guaranteed same wage job. This would need government assistance in job placement, or they would obviously be able to, try and get a job in renewable energy or another industry. But I think having that guaranteed job transition with union rights for fossil fuel workers is very important as we have to make this rapid transition away from fossil fuels. And I would also in the Green New Deal, they talk about early retirement for fossil fuel workers that are older. And I'm also in support of that and gonna keep continuing this dialogue with the mayor of Colstrip and the legislature and anyone who is working on that side of issues. But science is demanding a rapid transition away from fossil fuels. It's going to save millions of lives due to climate effects across the world, and it's a necessity. But putting those workers at the forefront of these decisions and making sure that nobody's left behind is needs to be incorporated in every conversation about transitioning away from these fossil fuel jobs. So I am confident that there'll be other jobs, whether it be in energy or whether it be in other government programs, such as rebuilding our infrastructure with our roads, with our public services. I think there will be a need for government assistance in guaranteeing these people good jobs after Colstrip is closed down. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing, people are worried about their jobs, and like I've heard this concern a lot, and it's very valid and needs to be addressed. But at the same time, there's no other option. We have to get off of fossil fuels rapidly.
I understand. Now, for just really quickly here, we have like a minute before our break here. Just really quickly at home, we have quite a few listeners who aren't Montana natives here. Where exactly is Colstrip, and why is it important for the energy economy here in Montana?
Right. Colstrip is over in eastern Montana. It's a town built off of coal mining there, and it's a town of less than 10,000 people, I believe, and it's built around that industry. And they've been exporting coal from Montana to Washington and the West Coast for decades and decades, and that's people's livelihood there. That's what their town is built off of. And yeah, it's also the number one emitter for greenhouse gas emissions in Montana at the same time. So yeah, it's a town built off of mining for coal, and people are really passionate about keeping that alive.
Right. So this is an issue that spans beyond Montana, really, because we have coal miners in other states as well. West Virginia, for instance,
Right.
There are people who have this industry as their livelihood, and they are obviously concerned about what is going to happen to them once these industries start to be transitioned out of. But it's important that we all talk about the transition plan that we have for these people as we try to move to more renewable sources of energy. Daniel, we're going to take a quick break. So definitely stick with us. We'll be right back after this quick message. Hey there, Indie Thought listeners. Just want to tell you today about one of our sponsors, and that sponsor is Anchor, the program that I'm using right now to create a podcast. Now, we searched all over for different ways to make podcasts, and we decided on Anchor. There's lots of great things to know about them if you ever want to decide that you want to do a podcast. And why shouldn't you? Get your voice out there, make your voice heard. I'm sure that everyone feels a little intimidated at first when they're thinking about, should I start a podcast? But basically, it's just a conversation that you're having just recorded. Nothing intimidating about it. And Anchor's the best place to start. It's easy, it's free. There are certain tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer or your tablet. I'm on a tablet right now, and Anchor will distribute your podcast to all the best places, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, a whole lot of them. You can make money from your podcast too, with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need in a one-stop shop. Definitely check out Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Again, the app is free. You can download it to any phone or go to their website, anchor.fm. To Independent Thought, Thank you so much. Welcome back from the break, everyone. Once again, this is Independent Thought. I am your host, Desmond Price. We are back with Daniel Carlino. Daniel, thanks for coming back with us.
Yep, yeah, I'm glad to be back.
All right. So, before the break was over, we were talking about some of the different issues that are going on that the Public Service Commission is hoping to address. Now, one of the issues that's going on in not only just in Montana in general, but going through Missoula right now is the Keystone Pipeline. Can you tell us a little bit more about what exactly is going on with that project and how it's affecting Montana?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. So the Keystone XL pipeline has planned on coming through eastern Montana for over a decade now. It's been back and forth fight for people that want it and people that don't want it. And they're actually setting up man camps, worker camps towards eastern Montana, around the Fort Peck area. And that's going on right now. They just started this month. And their plan is to set up all the infrastructure for it within the next couple months and get to building. It's going to go right through eastern Montana, through the Fort Peck Native Reservation's water supply there. And this is a Canadian company, TC Energy, that is doing this project. And their goal is to have this Keystone XL pipeline to be able to fast track the oil from Canada tar sands to get it down to the Gulf of Mexico faster. That way that they can ship it over to China and make profits. And yeah, all of our statewide politicians that have a say in this right now in Montana are all in support of this project. And yeah, we're working with I'm working with some climate organizers, DSA folks, indigenous organizers and community members in the effort to stop this pipeline as well.
Now, you speak of organizations that are helping you in this process. I saw that one organization in particular, the Sunrise Movement, their local chapter here in Missoula, Montana, actually endorsed you. The Sunrise
Right.
Movement is a very big activist movement right now, just advocating for all kinds of. I mean, tell us more about the Sunrise Movement, Daniel.
Right. Yeah, the Sunrise Movement is just started less than 3 years ago, and their whole goal is to build a social movement to stop the climate crisis and also create millions of good paying jobs in the process. And the way that they're doing that, they've got kind of a 3-pillar plan, and that is one, take the corrupting fossil fuel money out of politics. Two, make climate change a top priority in our political system. And three is to elect leaders who are politicians who are going to stand up for social justice and for climate justice as well.
That's pretty impressive that you're able to get their endorsement. I remember watching the climate town halls that were taking place on CNN back in the
Right.
fall. So, yeah, that is really impressive that you're able to get their endorsement. You know, the one thing this all really leads to is the election where you are hoping to obtain this office. Now, the primary is on June 2nd, I believe. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So, what is the best way that you're able to kind of like rally people to make sure that they're like voting on that, not only just voting on that day, but voting for you? What is your call to action for people?
Right. Well, I've got the clear stances on the issues that are actually going to stop climate change. The call to the action is pretty much everyone goes through Northwestern Energy that lives in my district. And the call to action is to vote against the corruption within the PSC and vote for somebody who's going to stop all fossil fuel projects. And I'm the only choice in this race to stop all fossil fuel projects. And I think people will respond to that, especially with all the climate change news going on in the past year and people having less faith in our current political system. I think might draw more voters towards me. And, my main strategy for getting the word out there, this is a low budget campaign for covering a fifth of the state, But I've got lots of volunteer power, and we've knocked about 5,000 or so doors so far, and I'm getting letters into the local news every week, and using videos and asking people to use word of mouth and things like that is really how I'm getting it out there. But I would say canvassing, door to door canvassing, is the main way that I think I'm going to get this out there. And also just organizing with so many different environmental groups and other groups, for political groups and things like that, for change in Missoula has also helped me get the word out as well. So
All right. So, for those of you who are listening at home, if one of the things that goes unknown is that when you move around a lot, especially in a town like Missoula, um, your voter registration might not be up to date. So, the most important resource I believe that you can use is vote.org. If you go onto
mm-hmm.
vote.org, you can see not only if you're currently registered to vote or not, but if you're currently registered to vote at the location that you are currently at. So, for our listeners at home, definitely check that out. Make sure that you are registered before the primary on June 2nd. Daniel, we have talked a lot about the issues here and your stances on them, but to kind of finish out this interview here, I wanted to get some actual personal questions.
Uh-huh.
So tell us, how long have you been a resident of Montana for?
I moved out here when I was 18 to go to, and I'm 22 now, to go to school at University of Montana. I really wanted to live in the mountains my whole life. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, so just in a giant concrete jungle of a city, and I just
Right.
really wanted to get out into a beautiful area like Missoula. So I really fell in love with it, going to school at and just got the right guidance there on how to solve like these environmental issues. And yeah, I'm a lover of the outdoors here. I'm an avid uh, fly fisherman, and mountain biker, and snowboarder as well.
All right. Now, the questions that we are all dying to hear. If you had to choose between chocolate ice cream and vanilla ice cream, which camp are you in?
Yeah, sometimes it's good to get a scoop of both, but
Oh, you went the
I'm
both
gonna go
route on us?
I'm gonna go chocolate, actually.
All
If we got to
right.
decide.
All right. So, just final question here. Um, when you are not working on this campaign, what is one of the things that you like to do in order to relax? So, like, what is one of your go-tos for kind of like de-stressing after a long day's work?
I would say playing soccer or mountain biking and biking around. I play soccer on Sundays, pick up soccer every Sunday, and that's where I think I can get most into the zone of just not having to think about uh, climate collapse and our corrupt political system. I feel like I mostly get away from it playing soccer, and then I farm as well, and that's also kind of a sanctuary for peace for me. Just being outside, getting to dig my hands in the dirt, and yeah.
All right. I love it. So, just in summation here, everyone, June 2nd is the primary. If you are listening to this podcast, definitely give Daniel a chance to win over your vote. Go and hear his messages. Where can they find more information on you, Daniel? Do you have like an Instagram, a website?
Right. Yeah, my website is carlino2020.com, and that's jack full of videos where I stand on the issues. Unlike most candidates, I actually have full pages of like the issues and like where I stand on them. I'm not afraid to take a stance on all these crucial topics. I also have a Facebook and Instagram, just Daniel Carlino for Public Service Commission.
Okay. And can people donate to your campaign?
Yeah, if you go to my website, there's a donate button on there, or carlino2020.com/donate. And right now I've had hundreds of people donate, but my average donation is around like $15 or so. And I'm going up against big money here. Northwestern Energy has put money into every public service commission campaign since they took over. So it's really got to be grassroots funded. Small donations go a long way.
All right. So, last but not least here, if people, want to get more involved in this, how can they get involved? Should they reach out to you? Should they go to your website? What do you think is the best course of
Oh,
action here?
oh yeah. This is a this is the most important race in Montana right now for stopping the climate crisis. If you go to my website, there's a volunteer button as well. Feel free to message me on social media or give me a call. My phone number is on my website. But yeah, I could use all the help we can get to take this seat back away from the monopoly's interests. And people power is really how I'm going to win this thing.
All right. Oh, and actually, I do apologize. One more thing. You
Right.
mentioned earlier that you have your own podcast. Give us a plug really quick. Where can we find your podcast?
I will get it up on my website. Today we've recorded, so it's not out yet. It's called the Montana Power Podcast. I've
Okay.
recorded about 5 or 10 of those so far, and it'll be up on carlino2020.com very shortly as well.
All right, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today. Once again, Daniel Carlino, running for the Public Service Commission here in Missoula, Montana. Give him a chance to win over your vote. Thank you for joining us today on Independent Thought. My name is Desmond Price. We will see you next time. All right, everyone. That is our show for today. I want to thank you all for checking out Indie Thought. Independent Thought is brought to you by your host, Desmond Price. You can follow us on Twitter at Independent Thought or at Indie, I-N-D-E, Thought. So, again, thank you all for coming and hanging out with me. For those of you who found me on iTunes or on Spotify, please go ahead and subscribe to us. Give us a 5-star rating. If you give us a 4-star rating, I'm inclined to think you're a hater. So don't hate. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you all next time.